And hello everyone and welcome back to the Pumpkin Copter Cast, the only video game show. So today I'm joined by Dave Crouse of the veteran gaming charity Stack Up.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. So let's start with a brief introduction of you and what you're all about.
Sure, man. Yeah, my name's Dave Crouse. I'm the,
Oh, I
director
got
of
it
veterans.
wrong.
Oh, dude, you're good, man. It's pretty common, pretty common mispronunciation, to be honest. I think in the French root, I think I believe it is Cruz in French, and I have French heritage, so
Oh.
not crazy. I could be wrong about that too, but I definitely know that the way I was taught to pronounce my name is Crouse, so maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, man. So I'm the director of veteran services for Stack Up. We're a military charity. We support U.S. and allied veterans through gaming. So I mean, that's kind of what I do. But as far as who I am, uh, man, lifelong gamer. Did a lot of had a lot of different passions growing up: music, games. When I was in my teens and stuff, a lot of skateboarding as well. I joined the military at 18, and I was in the Marine Corps for about 11 years before I retired due to some injuries I got overseas. And, kind of trying to figure out what my next chapter was, trying to figure out how I can, where to move forward to from there. I found myself in the charity space, and I really, I haven't looked back since. I tried to do school for a couple of years. I was gonna maybe go try and be a biomedical engineer somewhere, and that was all right. That was all right. But again, gaming kind of is always my home sweet home. And so when I had the opportunity to help people and to do that through gaming, it felt like a no brainer to me. So I've been doing that for about 5 or 6 years now, and no signs of quitting anytime soon, man.
Okay. And when did you first discover video games, would you say?
I want to say so. I was born in '85, and I think it would have been like '89, maybe somewhere between 1989 and 1990. Um, I assume it was my dad because my mom was never really a gamer. But I think it was my dad brought home an NES, and so that like I think it's a pretty reasonably cliche answer, but I think my first experience that I can remember was probably Super Mario Brothers, and I think what was it, World like the track game with the track mat and stuff, whatever that was, like the World Championships game or
Mm,
something like that. It was those two games and Duck Hunt, of course. And then
okay.
from
Oh,
that, I think. Oh no, go ahead.
oh no, I was just thought you were done with that, but go on.
No, no, yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, it was definitely an awkward pause. That was completely on me. No, I was gonna say, so it was, yeah, Nintendo was first, and then from there, I remember we had a Tandy 1000 computer, and so there was a handful of computer games that I got uh, super into, which I think we'll probably be talking about here in a second.
Okay.
So go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
And yeah, so what would you say was your favorite game and or games growing up?
Yeah, man. So I was a very, very big RPG head. That was my thing. At a time where people, at least to where in my elementary schools and stuff, people would pick on you if you liked RPGs. Oh, you're a Final Fantasy nerd, and I totally was. Final Fantasy, Dragon Warrior, Zelda, all that stuff. When I was, when I talk about the computer games, I think when I try to boil it down, because I've always been really bad at nailing down what my favorite of anything is. But I think when I try and boil down what made the games that I loved, um, what made me love them so much, I was a big RPG head. I liked big games. I wanted epic story. I wanted big stories, and I valued big, story type games, and I valued good writing or a good sense of humor in a game. Now, that's it. Like also loved a lot of action platform stuff too. Like I played a ton of Contra. Um, remember when I first played like Doom, my introduction to FPS, I loved Doom.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of different genres I played, but I think the stuff I loved the most were RPGs and or um, games that were clever, were funny. On computer, for me, I played a lot of. There was an old DOS based like adventure game called Black Cauldron. It was an adaptation of the Disney movie, and I loved that game. I used to play that, and I would play the Space Quest games. And then, of course, on the NES, it was Final Fantasy, Dragon Warrior, Zelda. The list goes on, and anything with a Ninja Turtle in it.
Okay. What would you say is your favorite game and or games now?
I'm definitely still an RPG head. I enjoy a good puzzle game from time to time. Uh, but I mean, I play Final Fantasy 14 um, pretty much all the time. Um, like it's at least it's always in my rotation. I've been committed to that game for about 6 years now. I actually just finally played Doom 2016 to completion.
Hmm.
I played it a bunch of times before, and I freaking loved that. My favorite series of all time is probably um, Metal Gear Solid in terms of franchises. And then, for RPGs, I still play a lot of Final Fantasies. I still love the Dragon Quest games. Earthbound has been probably my favorite game of all time since it came out
Hmm.
in 1995, and that's still the nearest and dearest video game to my heart. But I think in terms of franchises, I get the most excited about Final Fantasy, Metal Gear Solid. Those are pretty high up there.
Okay. So yeah, if this was like PAX or some similar convention, and like just because I've been bugging him about it, if my uncle, former Marine, current Air Force Reserve, or just like walked up to your booth and was wondering what you and Stack Up are all about, what would be the rundown you'd give him?
Yeah, man. So the elevator pitch for Stack Up is the idea that what we're really trying to do is we're trying to leverage video games and gaming and geek culture. We're trying to leverage that as a mental health resource. So we've met many times. I got injured in Cambodia in 2013, and I lost a hand and an eye and stuff. So that was a couple years of me recovering in a military medical facility. And so during that time, I was really struggling with a lot of heavy subject matter,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of self um, examination, a lot of soul searching, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. And for me, a very important tool in my toolkit was gaming. As I said before, it's always been a part of my life. Everywhere I've ever been, every country I've ever been to, every mission I've ever been on, I've had video games with me. And it's what I do to decompress. And so that was a huge tool for me. Final Fantasy 14 came out while I was going through recovery. And so having something, games I could sit down and play and kind of get lost in for a while, just to kind of get a little bit of separation from the things that were keeping me awake at night, like that was huge. It was certainly a whole lot better than kind of waking up in the middle of the night, reliving every decision, every mistake, all that stuff. It was better than waking up feeling that way and staring at a wall for 2 or 3 hours, which I had done a few times. So it was a whole lot healthier for me to go hop on the sticks for a little bit. Um, so much the better if one of my buddies was on and we could hop in and play, Battlefield or something together. But so what we do is, we have four primary programs. We have our supply crates, which are video game care packages that we build and send to, deployed forces overseas or to folks recovering in military hospitals or even to veteran groups here in the States or even, abroad. Again, we serve U.S. and Allied. I've sent plenty of supply crates to Brits and to, Australian vets and stuff like that as well. Anywhere we think that we can have an impact by just hooking a group of folks up with a console or something, we're going to do that. We have our air assault program, which is the one you're the most familiar with. I know every time I run into you at PAX, or you probably always notice I got a handful of folks around me,
Mm-hmm.
and more often than not, those are our air assault veterans. So those are our VIPs. we identify disabled or deserving veterans, and we bring them out to PAX. We bring them out to San Diego Comic-Con or E3, roll out the red carpet for these guys, and introduce them to our industry partners, who then let them kind of get ahead of the line and play the newest games. They get to meet the developers who make the games they love. It's very near and dear to my heart, that program. We have our Stacks program, which are local volunteer teams that we have all over the U.S. and a few international. And these are just veterans and civilians who support the mission, who come together and do good works in the name of Stack Up and go out and try and be a force for good in their communities. And then lastly, our newest program, and it's about 2 years old now, is our Overwatch program. And what we do is we provide 24-hour a day, 7 day a week, 365 days a year. We provide peer-to-peer mental health support and crisis intervention. So, anytime somebody is feeling like overwhelmed, they don't know which way is up anymore, maybe they're just having a really bad day and they need somebody to talk to, we have folks who are trained and certified to provide peer-to-peer mental health support. And because, while Stack Up we are a military charity focused on supporting military and veteran service members. When it comes to crisis intervention and mental health support, we did not want to be a charity that drew a line in the sand and
Mm-hmm.
said, "Hey, we're going to turn you away if you're not a vet." So we don't. We don't turn anybody away, regardless of whether or not they've served. So anytime somebody can just hop in our Discord server and say, "Hey, having a really hard time, need to talk to somebody," and within minutes, we're gonna get them hooked up with somebody in our community that can just kind of be there for them.
Okay. And when did you specifically join the charity? Were you there from like the very beginning, or did like someone else approach you and be like, "Hey, this is what this thing is all about"?
Yeah. So I've been with the charity since day one, not as a full-time employee, but I had been working with Steve, our founder. I'd been working with him for about a year before he launched Stack Up. I met him while I was at Walter Reed, actually. He came down to a Christmas party at the hospital and he'd brought a bunch of Xbox 360s and games and stuff with him, and he set up a table and was looking for folks who might benefit from it to give that stuff away to. And I was just really interested in that because I'd never seen anybody come into the hospital and with such a focus on gaming. I hadn't seen that before. So I ended up talking to him for a bit, and I really liked what he was doing. And so started working with him. Actually went to a convention with him and stuff, my first convention ever, which was PAX South 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I had already been doing a little bit of charity work in the gaming side, just doing adaptive controllers for disabled vets and stuff. But it was, what we were doing was smaller in scope. So I'd had a little bit of charity experience, and then when he told me he was going to be launching Stack Up in November 2015, I told him, I said, "Whatever you need from me, I'm here for you." And so he took advantage of that, as long as he could for free. And then once the organization could afford to bring me on full time, that's what he did. So it was about a year, a little over a year that I was doing, volunteering to just help run programs and get it off the ground. And then January 2017, I came on full time, and I've been running programs for us ever since.
Okay. And so, yeah, as you said, you've been there since the very beginning. But, just if someone was, because, thankfully this type of thinking has died down quite a lot over the years, but I still see, it worming out of the woodwork. Like, if someone was just to be, like, helping, like, active and veteran service members through video games, why video games?
Yeah, and it does come up, right? I mean, we saw, what was it? I think it was the beginning of last year when the CDC was, you know, doing research into whether or not video games cause violence, right?
Mm-hmm.
That old chestnut. Interestingly enough, the CDC ended up giving us a grant last year to fund supporting vets through video games and researching that side of it. So I think that as a whole, our culture is coming around. It's just I think we're at the point now where everybody plays games. It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be that many more years before we have a president who, you know, beat the latest Call of Duty, right? It's just a matter of time. So people are coming around, but when people ask that question, or when I've been asked that question, like, man, you really think video games are helpful? I mean, I say, yeah, of course they are. I mean, are movies helpful? Are books helpful? What types of entertainment media have people used to kind of transport themselves into another world for a little bit, or to walk a mile in a character's shoes and kind of gain some perspective, or watch a movie to see, um, what maybe a different walk of life was like. I mean, we watch movies in school, right? Like every kid that I grew up, we all watched Roots when we were in middle school. Why? Because it was important to gain a perspective on these aspects of human life that we weren't living through. So I think that video games can create a safe outlet for exploring all manner of different um, perspectives, all manner of different walks of life. It's storytelling. And storytelling has always been uh, heavily involved in our culture and our cultural growth. So I think anybody who's still kind of holding on to this idea that gaming is not in the same vein as any of those things, I think they're naive.
Okay. And so, like, what do you hope to accomplish and stack up as the charity continues to exist and progress in the coming years?
That's a good question. I mean, I so often think about, obviously, so as a director for the charity, I'm always thinking about strategic goals. I'm always thinking about, what's in front of us. What are we trying to do this year? What are we trying to do next year? And I could answer that a million different ways with regard to the programs, but um, to speak to what I imagine is the spirit of the question, and thinking in broader terms, I think what I'd like to see Stack Up accomplish in the future, or continue to accomplish, is just building community. I want Stack Up to be known everywhere. I want military and veterans to see this organization, to recognize that we're here for them, and to see that we are, worthy, or at least always striving to be worthy of the trust, right? Like, there's a lot of great nonprofit organizations out there, a lot of amazing organizations doing amazing work. There are some not so great organizations out there as well. And what happens is, at least in my experience, when I was going through the hospital, I got exposed to so many charity organizations. And again, a lot of them were amazing. Some of them were not so amazing. There were definitely some organizations that you could tell right off the bat were there because, they were there to grow their organization. It wasn't entirely altruistic. So there was a lot of skepticism from us, from the military community down that way at the time, where we always felt like, hey, man, we need to make sure these people are who they say they are, and that they're genuinely wanting to do something for us, rather than some of the organizations that would come around and it's like, yeah, we'll do this one little thing for you, but we're going to ask for all this in return. And they want you to be their poster child. They want to put your picture all over the place because you look injured and stuff like that. So I think, as far as Stack Up, I want to continue doing the right things for the right reasons. And I want to continue to be transparent, and I want people to be able to see us and feel like they can trust that we are who we say we are, and that we do what we say we do. And if we're able to continue doing that and continue to growing the right way, which we have been, I mean, we have an amazing community of people that know us, and trust us, and we trust them. And as they continue to spread the word, I want to see that reach extend, so that this isn't an organization run by a headquarters staff, but that this becomes more and more an organization that is run, by the community, and just stewarded by the headquarters staff.
Okay. And in addition to being a veteran, you were also a dad of some
Damn, I
adorable
got
of
Yeah, I
some,
got two, man.
yep, of some adorable youngins, and so as as a dad, like, what is like, how do you approach introducing your kids to video games? Did you pretty much just like hook them up to it from like the time that they could, do all the things needed to play games?
I tried. I did try that. I tried. So when my daughter was around 4 years old, I thought she's old enough now. This is about how old I was when I started playing NES. So I said, it's time. I said, well, I've still got my NES laying around. Those games are simple. The controller is simple. Let me see if she takes to this. And if I'm being honest, I tried to force it a little bit. I was like, no, no, come on, keep trying, you know? I wanted it so bad. And it wasn't really clicking. And so finally I was like, okay, well, when you do want to play, let me know. And I had bought like some Little Mermaid games, some old stuff that I thought she'd be more interested in. And she was. She was a little bit here and there. And then every now and again, she'd hop on with me and mess around a little bit, play some Mario Kart, and then she'd go on to do other things. She was more into books. Um, Now, she's 10 now, and she actually has a Switch, and she's all into it. And but she has the games that she's super into. Like her and I play Minecraft together. She's super into Animal Crossing, so she's really, really excited about New Horizons. She played Happy Home Designer to death on her 3DS. So she had the game. When she gets into a game, she gets real into it. But she's not like me at that age where I was always looking for a game to get sucked into. My son, on the other hand, and he's, around the time he turned 4, and he's about to be 5 here soon. So about a year ago, um, my daughter got really into Minecraft, and my son was watching her play and watching us play together, and he wanted to get in on it. And I thought, oh man, here we go again. I'm going to hand this 4-year-old the controller. I'm going to spend an hour trying to explain to him how the sticks work, and then he's going to get frustrated and quit, and I'm not going to have been able to spend any time playing with my daughter. But I was like, all right, well, let's give it a shot. And it turns out he picked it right up. He was actually able to pick up my daughter, who struggled with the NES controller, not because she couldn't figure it out, but because she just wasn't that passionate about it at the time. He was passionate enough about doing this that he actually figured out how to work that Xbox controller. And, for the last year, if he really wants to play Minecraft, all he's got to do is ask. I turn it on for him, and he's off to the races. And he's good. He can play that on his own. We'll play some Mario Kart together, or he got Mario Party for Christmas, so we play that together. And yeah, he enjoys it, man. So it was very different than with my daughter, but uh, they both play now.
Okay, and you mentioned a bit of Mario Kart and Minecraft and
Yeah,
things like that. Are there any other games that you like have in mind specifically for like family game time?
a lot of the big Switch games, to be honest, and that's been kind of my go-to. So there've been a few other things here and there that we've messed around with, but we really come back to Mario Party, Mario Kart, Minecraft, and it's not terribly uncommon to have, me, my wife, and both of the kids all playing in the same world in Minecraft, or playing each other in Mario Kart, or everybody playing Mario Party together. Those are the big ones.
Okay. And just just like being a dad sort of like in any way like influence the type of games that you go out and like buy for yourself.
It hasn't, um, but it definitely made me aware of what what age appropriate content was. So, I definitely like, Doom, the new, Doom Eternal comes out in 11 days. That's a day one buy for me. There's all sorts of games that come out where I'm like, yep, kids ain't going to be able to watch this. But I buy those for me, and then I play them after they go to bed. That was the biggest change is as soon as, especially, once my daughter was old enough, because when they're, newborns and stuff, it really doesn't matter. They're not, unless you're exposing them to all sorts of like crazy visuals, right? But a lot of times it was language stuff or something like that. So I could just put the subtitles on and turn it down a little bit. Nowadays, she's old enough, she can read, she can, she hears very well, she remembers things very well. And the boy's old enough now too, where he wants to start repeating things. So when it comes to the games that I actually play when they're around, very different than what it used to be. But once the kids are in bed, then I can get my time with whatever game I want. So I still buy them for me, but I pay attention to every game I buy now because it's really cool for me when I can get a game that I really like that's also appropriate for them. And that's not nearly as common as it may may have been back in the day. I remember it feels like, because graphics weren't what they were today, because I mean, I remember even on like PlayStation area, it wasn't that common to have a game with a bunch of profanity in it. A lot of times it was censored out. Um, I feel like that would have been an easier time for me to have had kids, to have been a father. Nowadays, everything's pretty raw, which as a fan of the medium and as a fan of gaming, and I'm fine with that. I enjoy it, but it definitely makes things a little more challenging when I'm sitting on the couch and I gotta wonder like, oh man, if my daughter comes in, I'm gonna have to shut this down real quick.
Okay. And we've reached the final question on our docket, which always brings about the most interesting responses. So, Dave, in your opinion, is video games?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not a, I've never been a terribly creative person. Um, Maybe that's part of what I like video games for so much in like artistic mediums because it's like through music, through skateboarding, or through video games, I can kind of live in a creative space, even though I'm not the most creative person in the world. My wife is. I did not realize how uncreative I was until I met my wife, and she's super into crafting things and like she just make little trinkets and stuff. And I'm like, I don't understand. I don't understand how you come up with the ideas. I don't understand what like I can wrap my head around the satisfaction of making things. Certainly. I also enjoy making things, but for me I've always been more of a utilitarian where it's like I'm going to make this thing to perform function X. And if it performs function X, then that's a success and I feel accomplished for having done it. I build computers, like those have a function. Um, so I realize I've never been creative. I never struggle harder than when I'm in a character creator in a game. I'm pretty sure every character I've ever made has looked exactly the same, and it's whatever approximation of myself I can put into it at the time. And then the naming, I hate naming characters. I'm so bad at it. Um, so yeah, that's my lack of creativity in a nutshell. I appreciate creativity. I love being around creativity. I love supporting creative people. I'm a great number two. I'm a great sounding board for ideas. I feel like I'm good at identifying ways to improve an idea, but when it comes to creating one, I'm not your guy.
Okay, then. And with that, we come to the conclusion of this particular episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast. I would like to thank Dave for joining me and talking about Stack Up and his own views on video games.
Hey man, thank you so much for having me on, dude.
You're welcome. And yes, if any of the -7 people listening to this enjoyed what they heard, you can, like, comment, and subscribe, all that stuff. Maybe sometime next year I'll be able to break 50 subscribers. Who knows?
Is
Um, if for some reason, after you go to Stack Up and check them out and give them some support like you should, you have any money left over that you want to give to me, you can go to patreon.com/thepumpkincoptercast. And yeah, so this has been the Pumpkin Copter Cast, and as I am forced to say at the end of every episode, because of forces beyond my control, have a gourd day, everyone.
take it easy, y'all.